in the Pacific Palisades, 12 people and over 6,000 homes and buildings. All gone. And that's thanks to you, Gavin Newsom.
The devil is a Democrat.
Illuminati is a thing you need to watch out for. They want to depopulate and slave us so much more. World domination, I'll get into that later. I'm hardcore, fierce and sexy. You're just a hater. You deserve the ridicule because you're an absolute zero. I'm the keeper of the chalice, a rock and roll hero. I'm not an idiot nobody listens to, because I'm not a failure in life like you. Let's talk about Bill Gates and the mark of the beast, and the orgies in the streets at the Catholic feasts, and Bill and Hillary's human trafficking ring, and George Soros got the money to pay for everything. Socialism is for losers, working for the devil, chumps that can't fight, they ain't on my level. It takes an evil one to try to debunk and doubt it, so I'd rather die than stop talking about it. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. Watch out for the Illuminati. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. Watch out for the Illuminati. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. Watch out for the Illuminati. Watch out for the Illuminati.
Would you also like to get federal funding to help put 5,000 more cops on the street in Chicago? Would that help drive down crime?
Well, look, policing by itself is not the full strategy.
No, I understand that. You've talked about the other things you want, and I said those are good and important programs, but I'm asking also, would 5,000 more police officers on the street in Chicago be helpful to go along with all of those social programs that a lot of cities are engaging in and having success with?
Well, look, here's the best way I can put it, Joe, is that in the 90s when I was in high school, we had 3,000 more police officers and we had 900 people being murdered every single year in Chicago. It's just not policing alone. Of course, we want more detectives.
I know it's not policing alone, but I know it's not policing alone. You've told me everything else you want. I'm curious, and this does come down to an ideological difference between people. Do you believe that the streets of Chicago would be safer if there were more uniformed police officers on the streets of Chicago?
I believe the city of Chicago and cities across America would be safer if we actually had, affordable housing. Look,
okay,
I'm not saying that
that's not the question I asked. My question is, and I just need a yes or a no, and I just need a yes or a no, and I just need a yes or a no. Do you believe the streets of Chicago would be safer if you got all of those other extraordinary programs put back into place, which do have a history of being successful, if that's complemented by having 5,000 more cops on the streets of Chicago?
I don't believe that we should narrow it down to just police officers, Joe, is what I'm saying. That is an antiquated approach. I'm saying we've invested in detectives.
Mr. Mayor, are you hearing what I'm saying? Are you hearing what I'm saying? Are you hearing what I'm saying? I'm agreeing with you that all of these other social programs are extraordinarily important. I just need a yes or a no, and then this will be the last time I ask. If you get all of those other social programs that 800 million that New York City does, Los Angeles, other people do with great success, would an additional 5,000 cops on the streets in Chicago help complement those programs to make Chicago safer?
Look, we are working hard to make sure that our police department is fully supported. I don't believe that just simply putting out an arbitrary number around police officers is the answer.
They got a whole nigga right now as the mayor of Chicago, and black babies are dying every fucking day.
Listen to me, all right? Just listen to me. Socialism is for losers, working for the devil, chumps that can't fight, they ain't on my level. It takes an evil one to try to debunk and doubt it, so I'd rather die than stop talking about it. Watch out for the Illuminati. And welcome to the MC Too Tall Show. I'm your hardcore, fierce, and sexy host, hip-hop legend MC Too Tall. Now, we got a whole bunch of things going on in that interview with Brandon Johnson, mayor of Chicago there. At the very beginning, you have rapper guy Tom McDonald pointing out that the devil is a Democrat. And apparently, he's pinpointing the specific Democrat, California Governor Gavin Newsom. Blood is on the hands of Gavin Newsom. Not only those 12 people that died in those fires, but countless people that die in the streets of LA, San Francisco, and other major cities of his state from either armed robberies gone wrong, blatant premeditated murders, fentanyl poisoning, and poisoning from all kinds of other junk going on in the streets throughout the major cities of California. And blood is on the hands of Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago. And Mayor Johnson of Chicago has all kinds of crime going on up the wazoo. And as I always say, crime runs rampant because of the Democrats. You got this chump up there doing all kinds of ballerina acrobatics over there with Joe Bodies in the Basement, Scarborough there. Morbid Joe with his bodies in the basement. And he can't answer a simple question that was asked of him 5 times. 5 times! 5 times! 5 times! Asked the most simple question on the face of the earth. And he couldn't answer it. And you got a whole bunch of things going on there. You got Joe Bodies in the Basement, trying to walk his radical liberal agenda back to the center by being confrontational with a liberal mayor. And thinking that that'll make him look centrist and moderate and be the impartial guy that news people are supposed to be. And he's not. He's a liberal fool, just as much so as Brandon Johnson, and this is just an act. And so he's being disingenuous, and you got Brandon Johnson being a genuine buffoon up there. Meanwhile, all kinds of youth in Chicago are catching bullets in the head that run astray in these gangbangers and these drive-by shooting type situations. And they don't care. They just want to hold power, they want to hold office, they want to rule over the ashes rather than be the number 2 or 3 guy in a peaceful kingdom. And that's what I see with the Democrats. They're always with pick me, pick me, pick me, no matter what the hell else is burning and going up in flames around me. That's pretty much their shtick. And he was asked this question 5 times, and I close it out by adding that little soundbite from Tony Montaga. Shout out, by the way, to Mr. Anton Tucker, a.k.a. Tony Montaga. He spits some facts. Check him out on Instagram at Montaga. But back to this Brandon Johnson situation. He was up there being interviewed at Morning Joe, hosted by Joe Bodies in the Basement, Scarborough, and his stone-faced wife there, Mika Brzezinski, who I didn't even show there because I don't want to see my viewers turn into stone looking at her. Because, my viewership will go down if that happens. But anyway, they're having this exchange, and it's pretty much the softball question, pitched nice and slow to him. Do you think the city will be safe with 5,000 more cops? And he found a different answer for the same question that did not address the question at all. Talk about ripping something right out of the book of Gavin Newsom. These people sure know how to dodge questions. They're question dodgers. Another pro at it was the former press secretary there, Kareem Jean-Pierre, who I understand is writing a book or put out a book recently. And the book is flopping, of course, like Jake Tapper's book, because, she's full of shit, and so is Jake Tapper. And so is Joe Scarborough. So is Brandon Johnson, Gavin Newsom. You know, anybody left of center, even if you're an inch left of center, you're already a lost cause. You're already a radical. If you're not coming back to the right of center, you're a lost cause. So, cut that out. Stop trying to make us think you're centrist or a reasonable liberal. There's no such thing in this day and age. Long time ago, there was a guy running for president in 1972 called George McGovern. He was a radical socialist pig. And this son of a bitch bastard radical fanatic would get stones thrown at him today and be called a hardline conservative if he was around today with today's liberal society. But meanwhile, while they're playing political chess on TV, trying to tug on your heartstrings and play on your emotions, people are literally, physically losing their lives on the streets of Chicago. Their lives do not matter. They're just pieces in their very poorly played chess game. And this came up when stats of crime plummeting due to Donald Trump bringing the National Guard into Washington, D.C. And my solution to that would be beef up your police department, get them well trained. Don't make sure they're encouraged rather than discouraged from making an arrest, and encourage those who feel they're innocent not to resist arrest. Take the cuffs, get booked, yada, 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 have your day in court and get acquitted if you're innocent. That's how the law works. It sucks to be accused of something you didn't do, but don't be an animal about it if confronted by law enforcement. Let the uniformed cops do their job in a non-violent manner rather than lash out at them and turn it into a violent matter. And so, things need to be retooled. Okay? Enforcement of the law and how the public perceives enforcement of the law. Because you have so many people out there getting away with murder, often literally, and when there's a crackdown on their BS, of course they're going to cry and call what's happening to them an injustice. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And you're not practicing that if you're infringing on someone else's life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And so, 5 times this man is asked the same question, and he managed to dodge it 5 times. Meanwhile, people are dying in his streets. And he's talking about affordable housing. Why are housing projects always crime-ridden in these inner cities? They live in affordable housing. They live in affordable housing, but they're kept down and held back because of the Democrats, much like good artists are kept down and held back because of the Illuminati. And the Democratic Party is obviously a branch of the Illuminati. And for a time, even the Republican Party was. And dare I say, certain members of the Republican Party still are. But the MAGA movement, thanks to the MAGA movement, those spineless cowards that cave into the Democrats each and every time are getting weeded out. God willing, people are onto their games and they will primary them out. These people are a joke. You know, beware of weak Republicans because they are strongly against you. And the Democrats, you know what they're about now. They're about talking nice to you while putting their hand in your pocket and thrusting you in the middle of danger because, again, crime runs rampant because of the Democrats. I mean, the city was in pretty bad shape under Lori Lightfoot. Chicago was in horrendous shape under Lori Lightfoot. They had a runoff and kicked her out of office, replaced her with Brandon Johnson for that reason. And what happens? A mayor coming in on the public's attempt to make the city better turns out to make the city worse. We'd probably still be in this shape in Chicago there, with Lightfoot still there. But the idea is, like, you don't solve problems created by a Democrat with another Democrat. You just don't. Okay? Koch lost his handle on the city toward the end of his 3rd term. And he got primaried out by David Dinkins, which was not the solution. You had the opportunity to bring in Giuliani as early as 1989, and the city didn't do it. Because long before Obama became president of the United States, New York City felt the need to have their first. And instead of rushing to get the first black mayor in office, they should have rushed to get in a mayor that promised to have a handle on crime. And when he eventually did become mayor, he was proven right. He said he'd have a handle on crime, and he had a handle on crime for the 8 years that he was mayor when he eventually did become mayor. And people always elect the wrong guy, and when they do, lesson learned, they bring in somebody that could turn that around. And that's what I'm hoping happens here come November when we elect Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa already one of his campaign promises is to beef up the police department. He's going to beef up the police department when he's mayor. And this is the stuff you want to hear when electing somebody that's running for public office. If you hear nothing about your local official or somebody running for local office about crime, how they're going to have a handle on crime, how they're going to keep our streets safe if they're already safe, then that's your red flag not to vote for that person. And people just were disgusted. People were disgusted with how Chicago was under Lori Lightfoot. Oh, we'll take anybody. We just won't take a Republican. Because of the spineless Republicans of the past that refuse to toot their own horn. They refuse to point out that the narrative being said about them by the opposition is false. And so you have Democrats coming in and ruining whole cities unchallenged. The society in these major cities, these blue cities, is brainwashed into believing anything but a Republican. We need to retool that to anything but a Democrat. And when you choose amongst these other candidates that are not Democrats, then you could choose wisely in what's your best interest. People just go right to the Democrats and see that as their only pool of candidates to pick out. They're all rotten apples in the barrel. You got to go to another barrel. Go to the Republican barrel and pick out the good apples out of the Republican barrel and not worry about looking for a good apple out of the Democrat barrel, because there's simply not a single one in there. No matter how moderate they seem to be, they are all AOCs. They are all Elizabeth Warrens. They are all Lori Lightfoots. They are all Gavin Newsoms. They are all Brandon Johnsons. Putting their identity politics ahead of public safety. Putting identity politics ahead of national security when they're running for offices on a national level. And crime runs rampant because of Democrats, man. Crime runs rampant because of the Democrats. This world will not be a safer place. That's right, not this country. This world will not be a safer place until anywhere from 75 to 95, God willing, 100% of the Democrats are no longer holding a public office. No square foot is safe under Democratic Party control. And that's where the problem lies. It lies in the Democrats. People are getting shot up in these streets in Chicago where they have a Democrat mayor in a state governed by a Democrat governor. And you got Gavin Newsom out there spitting and cursing. Of course, the Democrats have to curse now. Gavin Newsom, Hunter Biden, Beto O'Rourke, they got to curse now. Even Huckster Hochul cursed a little bit there. They have to curse to deflect from themselves being the problem by showing how tough they are against their political opponents. So, in his barrage of cursing, he's over there claiming that crime is up in cities within Republican-run states. And meanwhile, all but one of these top 10 cities, all but one of these top 20 cities have a Democrat mayor. And the one out of all of them that has the Republican mayor just elected that Republican mayor. And crime is starting to sink in that city. I forget exactly which city that is that they're talking about, but you could go look it up, Google it. That's what it's there for, my man. That's what it's there for. And so, it's unbelievable. People are dying in these streets. Blood is on the hands of these Democrats. And they want to dodge the questions that address that issue. They're ungodly. They're completely ungodly. They're being ruled by the devil. And they've been put in office to do the devil's work. So that's why I always say in these times especially, respect God, watch out for the Illuminati, follow, share, subscribe, tell all your friends about me, stay strong, keep kicking that slang. Here's your boy in the building, hip-hop legend, recording engineer, and underground rock and roll hero, MC Too Tall.